So Alice, what are your memorable personal achievements from your journey here at Cranfield?
I suppose the biggest one is that I got through it because it was a major undertaking.
You had doubts?
Yeah, I think I had doubts. I would have been very concerned about myself if I hadn't had any doubts at all. It's a lot to do in a 4-year time frame. I was running a business. When I did my MBA, I decided I couldn't do it part-time, so I actually stopped working. I left my job and did a 1-year full-time MBA. This time round, I decided to risk doing it at the same time as working full-time.
The risk being?
The risk being that it costs a lot of money. So I would be investing my own time and my own money into doing something that actually might go nowhere, and then if perhaps I'd chosen to do the wrong thing, then trying to do it again somewhere else would be even harder after getting it wrong. So yeah, there were a number of risks involved, but I was fairly determined to do it and to just knuckle under and get through to the other side. But that was a huge achievement.
So when did those doubts disappear? Was it very early on, or did you keep those doubts going?
I think they disappeared around about year 2. I'm not sure I ever really got rid of all the doubts that I would complete it in time, for example. I had a particular personal goal, which was to complete it before my 50th birthday, which I did manage to do. But I'm not sure whether or not I felt that I would absolutely complete it in time, apart from sheer dogged determination that drove me to do that. But certainly, I guess I knew by about the middle of year 2, or maybe by year 3, by the middle of project 2, that I would actually complete.
And your research question was clear from day 1, or did that take a while to?
No, my research question was not really clear until about day, how do you multiply 4 years by 365 days and then subtract 1?
Is it clear now? Is it clear now?
Yes, absolutely. But my problem was that I knew roughly the area that I wanted to work in, because I'd been a practitioner in the transport field for a very long time, and I had constantly come up against challenges from transport professionals who suggested that they were unable to deliver very important, very valuable projects for your average punter, because people like me are expensive, but legally they were obliged to, so they had to abandon whole projects because they couldn't afford to do them.
And that's
because they had to make them accessible.
And you were curious about that? You weren't sure about that?
I knew it wasn't true. I knew there was economic value, and that what they were doing was counting wrongly. So they were looking at when you do a transport project, you obviously have to put all the costs in, because it's money, you know, but you don't necessarily look at all the benefits, and there are ways in the economic appraisal process of valuing certain sorts of benefit, time savings in particular, and there is a value of time, and you multiply the time savings in, say, a new road or a new railway or an upgraded piece of track or something. You multiply them by time savings, by the value of time, and that gives you monetary value for time savings. That's the main way that's used. There are some other monetary values that you can use, but access for disabled people, or access for people who find it difficult to use the normal routes of access, which are normally stairs and footbridges, certainly in the rail environment, which is where I was working. That is, there was no way of valuing that. That wasn't incorporated into the appraisal process.
So in terms of the impact of your studies and your questioning on your organisation, it sounds considerable.
Yes, on on the organisation is a little bit of a difficult. It's on the industry really rather than the organisation, because it's about the transport industry and the way the transport industry operates as opposed to any particular organisation.
But there's high utility though from your study, would you say?
I think
you
so.
would think so. You're biased.
Yes, I think so, but I'm biased. Yes, I think that many transport practitioners also think it was a useful thing to do. It's clear that the Department for Transport thinks it might have been a useful thing to do because they have commissioned or are in the process of commissioning a study to verify, not quite to verify my results, but to work out whether there is economic value in their programme of access for disabled people across the rail network.
That's quite an endorsement of your study.
Well, I like to think so. But yeah, that was all I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was get people to take some notice and do the work. I didn't for a moment believe that what was actually a fairly small study in the end to achieve my DBA would be the answer to life, the universe and everything. My 48 pence for a lift was not the answer 42. But it was something that pointed in a direction that said, actually, there is quite a significant amount of potential benefit here, and somebody needs to take another look.
So, in as much as we can make causal connections, how would you say the DBA at Cranfield has led you to where you are now?
If I hadn't done the DBA, I wouldn't have been able to make the kinds of statements about potential value that I am now able to make. I can make them with a certain amount of credibility. I've done the research, and so I can make a much stronger case for looking into the issue further rather than being dismissed out of hand. It's too difficult, we can't possibly do that, it's unreasonable, and then all the subsequent decisions that are made because it's too difficult to do the valuation work. The subsequent decisions are made on a gut feel or a political will if you believe that it's the right thing to do. One of the things I did was I looked at what was done in practice at the time in relation to economic appraisal and access for disabled people and the delivery of programmes, of transport programmes, and what I found was where the will existed in the first place to deliver an accessible piece of transport, then it was, on the whole, people would find a way of arguing the toss to do it. But I was very concerned about the bit where there wasn't the same will to deliver an accessible piece of transport, and therefore there was no driver that said, you need to look at this, you need to look at this, the value of this, doing this, and you need to look at it seriously. Now I hope that people will look at it much more seriously.
They should believe what you say.
I hope they do believe what I say. But as I say, there's no way I would say, okay, I came out with the value of 48 pence per journey for a lift at a rail station instead of stairs, or a lift as well as stairs, and therefore that is the definitive answer across the country, because I did my study in North London. That's the definitive answer across the country. It's absolutely right, and that's the figure that everybody should be using all the time, because Alice Maynard says so. That's not actually where I would come from on that, but it does seem to have had the impact that I wanted it to have, which was for people to go, oh, actually, maybe there is some value in this, and let's go off and look in greater depth, do a more rigorous study, or actually not so much a more rigorous study, but a bigger study. My experiment was 411 people, generally with the kind of economic instrument that I was using. You need something a little bit bigger than that if you want to be absolutely certain. And there are also issues about transferability from one location to another and some of the reasons why certain locations, certain journeys, certain whatever will come up with a value as opposed to another value.
No small achievement. Alice, thank you very much.